my company retreat, my boss stood up during dinner and said, "One of you isn't who you say you are." The conference room went dead silent. Forks stopped midair. Someone's wine glass hit the table a little too hard. My boss, Gerald, was standing at the head of the table with his hands pressed flat against the wood, scanning each of our faces like he was counting us. We were a small tech startup, only 12 employees total, and this retreat was supposed to be a celebration. We just closed our funding 2 weeks ago. "I'm not joking," Gerald continued. "Someone in this room has been lying about their credentials, and I found out this afternoon." My stomach dropped. I'd been working at the company for 8 months as a senior developer, and my resume was solid, but I also knew that my college transcripts had a discrepancy I'd never bothered to correct. A clerical error listed my graduation date as 2019 instead of 2018. It was minor, but if someone dug deep enough, they could claim I lied. I glanced around the table. Everyone looked equally terrified. Liam, our lead designer, was sweating through his shirt. He told us he worked at Apple before joining our startup, but I'd never actually seen proof of that, just his word. Our CFO, Janet, had her hand over her mouth. She'd mentioned an MBA from Wharton during her interview, and Gerald had hired her on the spot. Then there was Priya, our operations manager, who claimed fluency in 6 languages. I'd only ever heard her speak English and broken Spanish. Gerald walked around the table slowly. "I hired all of you based on trust, based on what you told me. And now I'm finding out that one of you fabricated a major part of your background." He stopped behind Janet's chair. She went pale. "It's not me," she whispered. Gerald didn't move. "Then who is it?" Nobody spoke. He pulled out his phone and set it on the table. "I have the proof right here. Someone's LinkedIn profile doesn't match their actual work history. Someone claimed experience they never had." I watched Liam shift in his seat. His leg was bouncing under the table so hard it was shaking his water glass. Then Gerald moved. He walked past Janet, past Liam, past Priya. He stopped behind Kyle, our junior developer. Kyle was 23, fresh out of college, and the quietest person on the team. "Kyle," Gerald said, "you told me you had 2 years of professional coding experience before joining us." Kyle's voice came out thin. "I do." "Really? Because I called your previous employer this afternoon. They've never heard of you." Kyle's face crumpled. "That's not possible. I worked there for 18 months. Gerald held up his phone. "The company you listed doesn't exist. I checked the business registry. There's no record of it." Kyle stood up so fast his chair fell backward. No, you're wrong. I worked at TechBridge Solutions. I have emails. I have pay stubs. Show me." Kyle fumbled with his phone, scrolling frantically. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped it twice. Then he found something and shoved the screen toward Gerald. "Here, see? Emails from my manager. My direct deposit confirmations." Gerald took the phone and studied it for a long moment. His expression didn't change. "These are real," Gerald admitted. Kyle's whole body sagged with relief. "But they're not from TechBridge Solutions," Gerald continued. "They're from TechBridge Consulting. 2 completely different companies." The room was silent again. Kyle's voice cracked. "What's the difference? I still work there. I still have the experience." "The difference," Gerald said slowly, "is that TechBridge Consulting went bankrupt 18 months ago, right around the time you claimed you were working for TechBridge Solutions." I watched Kyle's face cycle through confusion, then understanding, then horror. "I didn't lie," Kyle said. "I swear I didn't. I worked there under that name. They told me the company was called TechBridge Solutions." Gerald's expression softened slightly. "Did you ever receive a W-2? Kyle shook his head. "They paid me as a contractor. Cash deposits." "Cash deposits," Gerald repeated. "For a tech company." That's when it clicked for me. I'd heard about this scam before. Fake startups that hire junior developers, pay them under the table, then fold before anyone realizes the company was never legitimate. The developers walk away thinking they have real experience, but there's no verifiable record. Gerald sat down. "Kyle, you're not a liar. You're a victim. Someone scammed you and you didn't know it." Kyle dropped back into his chair. He looked like he might throw up. Gerald continued. "But this is a problem, because it means you don't actually have the professional experience you thought you had. Everything you learned there, all your references, they're worthless on paper." I expected Gerald to fire him right there. Instead, Gerald pulled out a folder, which is why I spent the last 3 hours putting together a remediation plan. "You're good at what you do, Kyle. I've seen your work. So, here's what's going to happen." He slid the folder across the table. "You're going to take a certification course on the company's dime. You're going to document every project you've completed here. And in 6 months, you'll have legitimate, verifiable experience that no one can question." Kyle stared at the folder like it might disappear. "I don't understand," he whispered. "You're not firing me?" Gerald shook his head. "I'm fixing the problem. Because that's what leaders do." He stood up and looked around the table at the rest of us. "Let this be a lesson. If any of you have skeletons in your closet, now's the time to come clean. I'd rather help you fix it than find out later." Nobody said anything. Gerald sat back down and picked up his fork. "Now let's eat. This steak is getting cold." My fiance's mother pulled me aside at Thanksgiving and said, "Please don't marry her. I'm begging you." I met Claire's family exactly 3 times before Thanksgiving. Each visit was perfectly pleasant. Her mother Sharon was warm, asked thoughtful questions about my job, and seemed genuinely happy Claire had found someone. Normal family stuff. So when Sharon grabbed my wrist in the hallway and whispered those words with tears in her eyes, my brain short-circuited. "I'm sorry, what?" Sharon glanced toward the living room where Claire was laughing with her cousins, then pulled me into a bedroom and shut the door. "I know how this sounds," she said. "I know you think I'm some controlling mother-in-law from hell, but please just listen to me." My hands went cold. "Is Claire sick? Is something wrong with her?" "No. Yes. I don't know how to explain this." Sharon sat on the bed. "How long have you 2 been together?" 14 months. "And has she ever done anything that felt off? Anything that made you question her?" I thought about it. Claire was spontaneous. She'd surprise me with weekend trips or show up at my apartment with takeout at midnight. She was intense about things she cared about, but that was just her personality. "She's passionate," I said carefully. "But that's one of the things I love about her." Sharon looked up at me. "Has she mentioned any past relationships?" I shook my head. "She said she dated a few people in college, but nothing serious. Said I was the first person she actually wanted to build a future with." Sharon's face did something I couldn't read. "Claire's had 6 serious relationships before you. The shortest lasted 11 months. The longest was almost 3 years." My stomach dropped. "That's not possible." "She lies. Not about little things. About everything that came before you. She erases her past completely and rewrites it to fit whoever she's with. That doesn't make sense." "The guy before you was Ryan. 2 years together. When they got engaged, she told him he was her first serious relationship. 6 months before the wedding, she called it off with no explanation and blocked him everywhere. I felt dizzy. How do you know all this?" "Ryan's mother and I are friends. We met at a fundraiser. Realized our kids were dating. We stayed in touch even after they broke up." Sharon pulled out her phone. "Before that was David. Before David was Nathan. I have their mother's numbers if you want to call them." "Why are you telling me this?" Her voice cracked. "Because I love my daughter. But I've watched her do this 6 times, and I can't watch you become number 7. "Do what exactly?" "She falls hard, rewrites herself to be perfect for whoever she's with, erases every relationship before like they never existed. Then the second she gets bored or scared, she vanishes and starts over." I sat down. "We've talked about our future. We're buying a house next year. Ryan bought a house with her. Both names on the deed. She disappeared 3 weeks before closing." "I don't believe you." Sharon handed me her phone. Text messages between her and 4 different women, all talking about their sons who dated Claire, all describing the same pattern. The intense beginning, The erased past, the sudden ending. One message said, she made him believe he was her entire world. Then she made him believe he never existed at all. My hands were shaking. Why would she do this? I've begged her to see a therapist. She insists there's nothing wrong. Says she just hadn't found the right person yet. Sharon's voice dropped. But I'm her mother. She's not looking for the right person. She's running from herself. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. But I couldn't let you marry her without knowing. She walked to the door. If you stay, I'll support you both. I'll smile at the wedding. But I needed you to know what you're walking into. She left. I sat there for 20 minutes trying to process everything. When I finally came out, Claire was waiting in the hallway. Her face was pale. She told you, didn't she? I nodded. Claire's eyes filled with tears. It's all true. Every word. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you for months, but I was terrified you'd leave. Why do you do it? I don't know. I swear I don't know. She was sobbing now. But I'm seeing someone. A therapist. Started 2 months ago because I knew I couldn't keep doing this to people. To you. Claire. I know I should have told you sooner. I know I should have been honest from the beginning. But you're the first person I've ever actually wanted to change for. She grabbed my hands. Please don't give up on me. I looked at this woman I thought I knew completely and realized I didn't know her at all. I need time. She nodded. Mascara running down her face. However much you need. I walked out of that house and drove home alone. 6 months later, Claire sent me a video. Her in a therapist's office, talking about her fear of permanence and her pattern of reinvention. She'd been going twice a week. We met for coffee. She showed me her therapy journal, introduced me to 2 of her exes she'd apologized to, told me stories about her actual past instead of the sanitized version. It took another year before I proposed again. This time, I knew exactly who I was marrying. Sharon cried at the wedding. Happy tears this time. My sister laughed at my modest lifestyle, excluded me from Christmas, saying, we only need real family. I left, and Grandpa took action that ruined her. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, drive a 12-year-old Honda, and work as a teacher making $48,000 a year. My sister Monica lives in a McMansion with marble counters and a wine cellar. Her husband Jake runs a tech startup that apparently prints money. At Thanksgiving dinner last month, Monica cleared her throat dramatically. Still shopping clearance racks? She'd said when I arrived, eyeing my Target jeans. Jake smirked from across the room. My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances, but said nothing. About Christmas, she announced. Jake and I are doing something exclusive this year. Just successful family members who've actually made something of themselves. She turned to me with a practiced smile. Sorry, Oliver, but we only need real family. People who inspire the kids. You understand? The table went silent. You're uninviting me from Christmas? I asked quietly. Jake cut into his turkey. We want to surround ourselves with, let's say, winners. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and left. Behind me, Monica laughed. See? Can't even handle honest feedback. The drive home was quiet, but I wasn't angry. I was done. 2 days later, my phone rang. Grandpa Lou. Oliver, your sister told me what happened. Here it comes, I thought. The lecture about family unity. Good for you for walking out, he said. I'm proud of you. I nearly dropped the phone. You are? That girl's gotten too big for her britches. Always has been. I'm calling because I need to tell you something. He paused. I'm changing my will. Monica's been counting on her inheritance to fund Jake's next business venture. They've already spent money they don't have based on what they think they're getting. I'm leaving everything to you instead. I tried to protest. Grandpa, that's not necessary. It's already done, he said firmly. Saw my lawyer this morning. She made her choice. Now I'm making mine. Christmas morning, I volunteered at a soup kitchen. My phone buzzed constantly with ignored calls from Monica, angry texts from Jake. 3 days later, Grandpa Lou passed away peacefully. At the funeral, Monica cornered my mom, whispering frantically about the will. I heard fragments. Did he say anything? When was it updated? Mom looked exhausted. The reading happened the following week. Monica and Jake showed up looking like magazine models. Monica shooting me smug smiles. She'd already texted our cousin about remodeling Grandpa's lake house. The lawyer opened the folder. Lewis Henderson's estate, valued at approximately $2.4 million, including property, investments, and liquid assets. Monica sat up straighter, already mentally spending it. Jake squeezed her hand. The entirety of the estate is bequeathed to Oliver Henderson. The lawyer cleared his throat and read the attached note. Oliver never forgot where he came from. He chooses people over possessions, compassion over status. He visited me every single week for 5 years, not because he wanted something, but because he cared. Monica called me twice a year, always with her hand out, always asking for money. This is my final lesson to her about what real family means. It's not about success or status. It's about showing up. Dead silence. Monica's face went through every shade of red. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. That's not legal, Jake sputtered, standing up. He can't just... It's entirely legal. The lawyer interrupted. Witnessed, notarized, and ironclad. Monica turned on me, shaking. You manipulated him. You poisoned him against me. You... Her voice cracked. You stole my inheritance. I visited him, I said quietly. Every Sunday for 5 years. That's all I did. She started crying. Ugly, desperate sobs. We need that money. Jake's business, the house payments. We were counting on it. Maybe you should have counted on building a relationship instead, I said, standing. Like real family does. Mom called that night. Can't you share some? She told me I wasn't real family. I replied. Grandpa showed her what real family looks like. A month later, Jake's startup collapsed. They sold the McMansion, moved into a rental. Monica posts about staying humble now. Last week she texted asking to talk. I blocked her number. Grandpa taught me that family isn't about who has the biggest house. It's about who shows up. I still live in my 1-bedroom apartment, still drive my old Honda. But now I know the person who mattered most saw exactly who I was.